Greetings, fellow songwriters and seekers, and welcome back to Muse Measure. If you haven't done so yet, please hit that little guy on the lotus pedal down below so you can subscribe and be a part of this community of songwriters as we share ideas and questions. So speaking of questions, I have a question from Robert in Duluth, Minnesota. I've been there once. It's a really nice town. I enjoyed seeing all the boats going into the harbor there, whatever it's called in Duluth. And it's interesting, Robert's question is about Bob Dylan because that was Bob Dylan's hometown for a long time. Born in Hibbing, grew up in Duluth though. So this is a question about Bob Dylan and his songwriting. And he's definitely one of the great masters of songwriting. We can learn a lot from Bob Dylan. I definitely was a huge Bob Dylan freak when I was in middle school and all through high school and on into college and probably into my 30s. I still love his music and still love his songwriting. I'm just not as fanatic anymore. But I've learned so much from Bob Dylan and his songwriting, especially the poetic lyrics. It really gave a lot of freedom to me and a lot of permission, I guess is the word, for what you could do in a song. And how you could borrow from other artists and other ideas and other genres. He's definitely, Bob Dylan's a great, not borrower, but stealer, as the old saying goes. Good artists borrow, but great artists steal. And even to go so far as plagiarism at times. But just to not let that impede you, that if you have a certain lyric that goes with a certain melody and that melody happens to be from an old song, well, tweak it a little bit, but, maybe that's where it belongs and not to worry about it so much. Maybe that's morally wrong. I don't know. You can tell me in the comments. Maybe I'm guilty of that too. So here's the question. Sorry to be so long-winded in my introduction. When you listen to Bob Dylan, how do you think he balances semantic meaning and sonic instinct, especially in songs where the imagery feels disjointed or surreal? As a songwriter, how much sense do you think Bob Dylan needs a line to make before its sounds, rhythm, or attitude justifies keeping it? Well, wow, this is a really deep question and really shows some great critical thinking about what Bob Dylan is doing in his lyrics. So a lot of times when people listen to Bob Dylan, and especially people who don't like Bob Dylan or don't get it, they just think it's just a bunch of random nonsense, just throwing one thing after another. And all these characters that come in that don't get developed, and we get one verse of Ophelia or one verse of Dr. Filth or whatever. You get all these characters, but they don't get developed and stuff like that. But I think with Bob Dylan, what we do get though is you do get those characters and you do get an imagery of what's going on, and you do get this kind of really cool poetic stanza in a verse that delivers maybe a series of imagery and other ideas. And it's not like it's abstract. He's not being abstract. So this whole sense of making sense, we think of that as we should be able to tie a concept and get the moral or the meaning of the whole thing. It's all going to be wrapped up in a nice bow at the end, and we can understand the song as a whole, as a package. Well, Bob Dylan really explodes that idea. And instead of it being this whole song as an entity, as a whole, as a one concept in itself, it is constantly unraveling and not allowing for that. Because unfortunately, or fortunately, that's how life is. We have these series of events and series of things that happens in our life and experience that oftentimes we want to make sense of and tie together, but there really isn't a necessary overarching narrative to it. And I think that, I don't know if if I would call it a disease, but it's definitely maybe, a problem with our egoistic thinking, that we think that there has to be some kind of narrative structure to everything, that this is building tension and that's going to get resolved, and that every little thing is going to make sense and have meaning towards the greater whole, to the greater package. And Bob Dylan's verses and his songs really kind of trouble that and deconstruct that idea and just kind of give us this series of images. And while that's happening, we can see ourselves processing it. So it does work on some level because we're processing it as if it were a story, as if it were making sense towards a larger narrative structure that Dr. Filth and Ophelia and Desdemona and Romeo and all the different cavalcade of characters that go on in Bob Dylan songs, that somehow they're going to lead to some kind of climax or resolution in this story. But really all you have are these various scenes of different characters doing different things. And he sometimes will stay with that for the whole verse, but other times he'll just they'll just be the opening line and then it'll go on to some other examples. Let me take a look at, let me just bring up Visions of Johanna, just as an example, just to give you some idea what like that. So let's go, now little boy lost, he takes himself so seriously. He brags of his misery, he likes to live dangerously. And when bringing her name up, he speaks of a farewell kiss to me. He's sure got a lot of gall to be so useless and all, muttering small talk at the wall while I'm in the hall. How can I explain it's so hard to get on? And these visions of Johanna, they keep me up past the dawn. So Bob Dylan in this song is hinting towards a story that he's obsessed with Johanna and all these other little things. No matter what's going on in the world, it always ties back to Johanna. So that's a nice trick that you can, if you have that last line that is a refrain, and very common in Bob Dylan songs is to tie it all back to one line, and that's how it kind of connects it to a big narrative structure. But of course, the narrative doesn't end in anything. It just gives you this is the place, this is what's happening. Visions of Johanna are what are conquering my mind, or Desolation Row. All those things. Or you take a song like I Want You, like just random things. Let me just bring it up here. So you just have a series of characters and imagery about what they're doing. So the guilty undertaker sighs, the lonesome organ grinder cries, the silver saxophones say I should refuse you, the cracked bells and washed out horns blow into my face with scorn, but it's not that way, I wasn't born to lose you. Okay, so it's all about I want you. So he's tying it all back in. He's using his refrains and his choruses to tie these all up, to make them so that they are leading to something. Even though it just seems like a random bunch of images, and these images kind of are just random in some ways. Okay? The drunken politician leaps upon the street where mothers weep, and the saviors who are fast asleep, they wait for you. And I wait for them to interrupt me drinking from my broken cup and ask me to open up the gate for you. I want you, I want you, I want you. So this is a great lesson we can learn from Bob Dylan, that you can have the most random and poetic things like undertakers and organ grinders and all these crazy things that just pop in your head, just kind of stream of consciousness, but he somehow ties them all back together through either the last line of the refrain or through the chorus. And we can use that. And one thing he allows for, though, is that all these can just be singular images in themselves. And so they don't have to make sense towards a greater thing. They can just say, the cat meowed, the dog barked, the horse neighed, and that reminded me that I love you. Yeah? So it just seems like random, but then it's tied up nicely at the end. And so, we can use that in our own songwriting as a way to just be free, just to have the permission to throw the whole world and everything, just like the Edict of Mahler is to embrace everything. So throw anything in that occurs to you, and it really frees up so that you're like, oh, well, I'm writing a verse now, and I need to come up with some words, but I'm writing about how I love my grandma, and so I've got to throw all these other things in. Well, you are now all of a sudden free to throw all kinds of things in that song. Maybe you don't want to do it in a love song to your grandma. If you're going to play it for your grandma, she's going to wonder why there's a organ grinder and an undertaker and a crooked mare and a squashed frog. She's going to wonder why all those things are in a song for her. But any other song, you are now free to have that permission. So I'm being a little long-winded here, but that's, I guess, apropos to Bob Dylan's style. You bring in the whole world and somehow tie it back to some kind of urge or feeling. But it's also just attitude too. So if you listen to his delivery of the lyrics and how he's singing and the emotion that he has in his voice, it all has a kind of stance to it, like, fuck the world, or this is fucking crazy. Sorry to use so many F words, but that's kind of his stance. It's kind of a fuck you coolness that he has, where he's just listing these things, these jeremiads, these complaints about the world, and then somehow is going to tie it back into his refrain or his chorus. So he does tie it up in a bow for us in that way, but it's a bow that is shredded and threadbare and allows for deconstruction, because the imagery that he is spewing out and this constant waterfall of images that he gives us can overwhelm us and just feel like a bunch of gibberish and nonsense. But it's not. It makes sense in the fact that we can visualize it and we can tie it also to his refrain or his chorus, that somehow the drunken politician weeps, that somehow ties into the fact that he wants this person, that he's in love with them or wants them in a lustful way. I don't know how, but that's true to our experience, right? Because so if we're obsessed with something or something's bothering us or bugging us, it doesn't matter as we walk around the street and we see this crazy mural of all the craziness and beauty and just little details of the world. All those can be put in, and it's very true to our consciousness that we always go back to what is our habitual thought at the moment, that we're obsessed with something. We're mad at a slight that we got at work, or we're upset at our girlfriend or wife, or we're madly in love, or we have unrequited love. So all these things. And that's what's really cool about Bob Dylan's lyrics, is they can include all these things, but also tie back into that main idea. Now, that could be seen as just kind of avoiding the subject and not going deep into the subject, not really exploring your own emotions. So that could be a criticism of these lyrics. They're just kind of like, oh, I'm going to do this fireworks show of imagery and dazzle you with my poetic genius, and then I'm going to throw in that, oh, okay, this is I'm feeling this too. I'm feeling regret about a fight I had with my girlfriend, rather than going into the deep self-exploration, but also reflection on what happened that can happen in a song. So you got to be careful with this. You can be so poetic that you were just kind of showing off and being dazzling with your lyrics and avoiding emotional depth that way. Or are these actually adding to the emotional depth and actually revealing what your experience is at the time? All these associations that are going through your head in some kind of stream of consciousness, but to tie it back to some kind of heart level where this is the emotion I'm feeling. So I think by answering your question, I've just made it so we have more questions. And I guess that's a sign of a good artist, or I should say a great artist. And we can learn from that by incorporating that into our own writing. So doing exercises of stream of consciousness, taking the most interesting ideas from that and incorporating it in our songs. But also being a little leery of that and making sure we're not avoiding actually telling the truth or exploring the real depth of the emotion that we're trying to experience. Now, maybe your song and what you're doing in your songwriting at the moment is not some kind of confessional song about something that's really going on in your life. But you can always put yourself in that place and imagine yourself as that character as well. So if you're not going through something like that in the moment, you're free to just do stream of consciousness and maybe do the old Bob Dylan trick, tie it to some kind of emotion, like the white keys scream, the string glistens and pierces my eyes, the rainbow cries, and I miss you. Yeah. So tying it back to some kind of emotional thing at the end to ground it in the emotions. So it's kind of a cheap trick, but it's also a brilliant trick. and one that can take all these discursive thoughts and have them make sense. Not only make sense as images, but also make sense as in that it's tied to some kind of emotion and human experience. All right, so I'm even more confused now than I was at the beginning, but I guess that's a good thing. And I hope it clarifies some things for you, Robert. If I didn't address your question enough, or if you have other questions, follow-up questions, please put them in the comments. And best of luck with your songwriting, your interpretation of Bob Dylan lyrics, and avoiding the pitfalls of our predecessors. All right, take care.